Okay, can somebody confirm you can hear me?
Yes.
Thank you. Before we begin, are there any questions? Is that open? No, I shouldn't have opened. All right, we're ready. Let me share my screen. A note for students who like to text messages. When I share my screen, I cannot see the text messages, so I won't even know that you've sent a text. So if you have a question, don't put it in a text message. You need to unmute your microphone and then ask in the lesson. I also don't use emoticons because when I share my screen, I can't see them as well. Any questions about any of that? All right, let me make sure I'm recording. I should be. Yeah, there it is. All right. Let's start with the Canvas website. So if you come and log into Canvas, you should, boy, this web page is really slow today. You should get a link to your course. So click on your course. Ours is this one here for Microbiology Tuesday, Thursday lecture and lab. And then you'll come to here. I've got a note there for you to read. You should read that. There is the syllabus. We'll talk about that in just a little bit. Here's a link for student and technical help. Students, whenever they're having trouble with Canvas, especially when they're having trouble with the Respondus Lockdown browser, when they want to take a quiz, they always ask me for help. And I can't help you with a question about why Canvas is doing something and it should be doing something else, or why Respondus Lockdown browser isn't working on your computer. You need to get technical help from the mostly the IT department. So you can click here. I probably should have done that. Oh, it's all right. And then you can request help from them. You can put in an IT ticket, or you can go to the help desk directly. And I think you can even, what's on? That link no longer works. All right, I'll have to get another link for that. I don't think this takes me, yeah, it does, to the Tech Hub page. And I think you can even talk to people online as well as call them and try and get something resolved. So if you do have trouble with your computer, you might want to let me know, or I should say Canvas or Respondus Lockdown browser, but I won't be able to help you. You're going to need to get professional help. And generally, with the Respondus Lockdown browser, there's about one student every other term who does not get Respondus Lockdown browser to work on their computer. And you need Respondus Lockdown browser on your computer working so that you can take the quizzes and exams in this class. Generally, all you need to do is change a setting or two on your computer, and then Respondus Lockdown browser will work. And the IT department is very good about getting it up and running. So far, I've only had one student who never got Respondus Lockdown browser to work on their computer, and I didn't trust this student for following the directions that were given to her. So I'm not sure whether she could have got it running or not. But like I said, she's the only student I never got Respondus Lockdown Browser working on their computer. Everyone else has always gotten it working, although some people had to get their settings changed on their computer. Any question about any of that? All right. I've got a link here for modifying your Canvas website so you can get notifications from me immediately, for example. You can take a look at that. I've got a YouTube site. If you want to see the lesson either again, or if you want to see it because you missed the Zoom meeting, I will hopefully record it and put it up on the my YouTube site. When you come to this link, it will tell you Firefox can't open this page. That's because it's a page outside of Canvas, so Canvas can't open it. But if you click here or there, you'll open it in another tab or window, and then you can come to that site. We actually do have the Tuesday, Thursday, 3 o'clock lab up there. And this term, I'm going to have a lot of lessons up here. There will be the Monday, Wednesday micro lecture, the Monday, Wednesday micro lab, and then the Tuesday, Thursday micro lab at 3, as well as a lecture at 5, and then a lab again at 7. Any question about any of that? But anyways, hopefully it will be recorded and then I can put it up on my YouTube website. Now, I will do that, but occasionally something happens and the Zoom meeting does not work. Either Zoom failed or maybe I failed to record it. That's why I check to make sure that I see that red link. That means I'm recording it so that I can put it up. If I don't get a Zoom session, I will try and find one equivalent from an earlier term and put it up. But I'm just warning you that the class may not be on my YouTube website if there is nothing that I can put up. But generally, I'll find something equivalent from an earlier term and put it up. But
What
hopefully,
do the numbers mean under the videos? I noticed that's the date,
this is
but
the
what are
date
the
and the year. And then that number is something to do with the seconds and something else to do with
okay?
the Zoom session. Okay.
Thank you.
2024 is the year. This is the 9th of January. And that's really all you need to know. 1500, I think, is at 3 p.m. So
All
15.
right, yeah.
Yeah. All right. I can't get in that and to shut it down. There we go. I've got a document about Zoom, and then there's the Zoom invites. That would be the lecture for most of you are here. So obviously you either use the link here or you can use the link I'll show you. There's a Zoom meeting link that Canvas has re-established a Zoom link. You can click on that, and initially it shows you nothing. Of course, this isn't working, but initially it's not going to work. But if you click on this link here, don't ask me why you have to do 2 links. You can then get the link for the class, and there it is there. You would probably link join one. I have a start.
I have a quick
I have a start
question.
because I've already started it. What?
So I clicked on one of the meetings that said it was at 5, but then I was in a room with a bunch of other people that were really confused and they don't know how to access this. So yeah, they're in like the 5 p.m. lecture and they're trying to get to here, I think.
And what link did you click
Uh,
on to get here?
I had one of my friends send me a link.
Okay, that won't work because that's not from me.
No, to get to here, but I clicked the one that was on the that says lecture, and it's the meeting that's I don't it's on the one that's on the calendar, and it says it's the 5 p.m. lecture.
Okay, I don't know if the calendar for this class is working. The calendar is not working for the Monday, Wednesday class. So don't rely on any links in the calendar.
Okay, how would I be able to access the lecture links?
I
Because
just showed you one way. There's this. And I then emailed you a this document here having the Zoom meeting invite.
okay,
So you can get it here or you can access my email.
okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right. Um, we'll talk about that in the lab a little bit. Here's an information about the lockdown browser requirements. And I think you can get here, you can actually get the link for getting the lockdown browser. You need to get Respondus lockdown browser up and running on your computer, and you want it up and running before you take the quiz. Because if you try to take the quiz and then the Respondus lockdown browser is not working, you may not be able to get it working in time for you to take the quiz. For example, the computer help desk, I believe, is now closed because it's after 5 p.m. And so it probably will not be open until tomorrow. And so if you were to contact them, you may not get an answer back until the next day. And that would be too late to take the quiz. Any question about any of that? So you want to get Respondus Lockdown Browser. Oh, I've got getting help down here for getting it from the Tech Hub too. Um, you want to get it up and running on your computer if you don't have it on your computer. And there's the download instructions and what is that? A movie on how to use it, I think.
Hey, good afternoon, sir. I'm wondering, I do have a question about the lockdown browser. If I'm on an iPad and I click that link, it says, verify with your professor that you can use an iPad. Can we do that, sir?
Um, Supposedly, let me look into this. I haven't looked this term, but in the past I have it. Oh, I don't see a link for Respondus Lockdown Browser here. Oh, there it is. I guess I can go there. Well, that's not working. Why isn't that? There it is. I'm only going to look today for the practice quiz 00B, but I'll look to make sure it's set up. Hold on. All right, so you should be able to use Lockdown Browser with an iPad. You do need the Lockdown Browser app from the Apple Store, but that's explained there. But I've got it set up so you can use an iPad. Now, if you're using a cell phone, that won't work for Lockdown Browser. And what do they call it? It's smaller than a notebook, a laptop. It may not work for all um, notebooks, but it should work on a laptop or a computer.
All right, sir. That answers my question. Thank you very much.
All right, there's a link for the textbook chapters. I've got the first 3 chapters online, and then all the chapter summaries are also online. However, all the other chapters you'll have to get from the textbook. And the main reason for doing this is if you do not have the textbook right away, you do not need to fall behind in the class, as well as if the bookstore ran out of copies and they're ordering more. The first 3 chapters of the textbook are online. And then let me talk a little bit about this link, the student discussions. This was an idea that actually came from a student in a previous term that they suggested I make a place for students to talk among each other and discuss topics and ask questions. And this is really intended for you guys. I am not going to be answering questions here. The exception would be if I go through and I look and I find somebody has asked a question and then somebody has answered the question incorrectly. That would be the only time I will respond here. So if you want a question from me, answered from me, you should email me in Canvas. We'll talk a little bit more about that. Surprisingly, when I got it set up, it's hardly ever been used, although certainly you can use it like whenever you want to contact students to get together over to form a study group. And there have been a few students who've used that for that purpose. But to encourage your use, I'm going to give you extra credit if you ask a question related somewhat to microbiology and the course, or you answer a question. And if you answer the question has to be a microbiological question. So if you ask the question something like, does anyone want to form a study group with me on Saturday in the afternoon? Okay, I'll give you one extra credit point for asking that question. However, if you respond to that, yes, I will. I'm not going to give you the extra credit point for that answer. I want you to actually answer a scientific question before you get credit for the answer. Any question about that? All right, so that's one way you can get some extra credit points. And let's go back to my web page. There are 2 other ways you can get extra credit point. Coming down to week 1, you can send me your picture of your face, and no one will ever see this except for me. I'll put it in my grade book, and I've learned that the quickest way for me to learn my students' names is to see their smiling picture when I'm putting in my grades in the grade book. And no one will ever see this picture. It'll also be a very small picture, but you can send me a bigger picture and I'll just truncate it or reduce it. If you don't have a digital picture to send me, just ask anyone who has a cell phone with the camera, have them email it to you, and then you can upload it to this link. The second extra credit point, which is actually the third, is you can do the extra credit study sheet. This was something that the lead instructor of microbiology came up with. I think I've got that down already. So let me go to it. It's a spreadsheet. On the first tab, give me your daily schedule. Like at 7 a.m. if you're sleeping, just put that. If at 8 a.m. you wake up, you say wake up and get ready for the day. Or you can just say wake up, get dressed, eat. And then let's say you're leaving for work at 9 a.m. And then from, I don't know, 9:30 till 5, you're at work. And then 6, you're home, you're eating dinner. 7, I don't know, you're studying. Let's just say studying from 7 to 10, and then at 11 you go to bed. So just give me your daily schedule. Okay. On log 1, which is the second tab, put in your study schedule for when you're planning to schedule during week 1 for microbiology. And let's say you're going to do it after the lab tonight. So you'll be studying from, I don't know, 9:30 till 11:30, something like that. Just put it in there. Everything else can be blank because this is just your study schedule for microbiology. And then you're going to do that on Tuesday and Thursday. And then Friday, you're going to be studying from when you get up from 9 a.m. to, I don't know, 3 p.m. So just give me your study schedule. If for week 2, you have a different schedule, put it on log 2. Week 2 study schedule for the class. If for week 3, you're planning on having a different study schedule, put it in log 3 for week 3. And then if you need additional weeks, which hardly anyone ever does, but you can add more tabs. Just click that button, add another tab. It's not working here. Why is that? All right, if you came late, I told you I don't use the chat feature. So if you have a question, please ask directly in the class. Just unmute yourself because I'm not going to be looking at the chat. All right, just add that there, and that's how you do it. And then you give the week 4 study schedule. If you need to add more, just go ahead and add more. Let me delete that now. If, of course, you're planning the same study schedule for all the weeks of the class, just state that here for week 1 through whatever week it is. Just say all. And that's all you need to do. You'll get 3 points for your study schedule for microbiology, and then 3 points for your daily schedule. You do need to tell me a little bit what you're doing on your daily schedule, meaning the daily schedule should be pretty much all filled in. But you don't have to go into details like sleeping. You just want to say something like family time, just put family time. You don't need to go into any details. Anyways, you get 3 points for your daily schedule, as well as 3 points for your study schedule for microbiology. You do not need to put a study schedule for other classes, but if you want to, you may. Just make sure it's distinguished so I can make sense of it. The only comments I'll ever do is if you are studying much less than the average student will require, I will give you a comment like that. But you will get credit point for it. Any question about that? All right, that study schedule is due, I think, January 13th. So this is due this week. And then the picture is due, I believe, in 2 weeks. Come up here. And the question, I think, is also due in 2 weeks. Any question about any of that? All right. Then the next section is avoiding the plagiarism tutorial. Oh, excuse me. And the plagiarism quiz. For this class, you need to take the plagiarism tutorial. You have to take that before you can take the plagiarism quiz. You need to take the plagiarism quiz by this Saturday, 11:59 p.m. You must get 100% on the plagiarism quiz. If you do not get 100% on the plagiarism quiz, then you will get 0 out of the 100-point infectious disease project. So you do need to take the plagiarism quiz and get 100% on it. If the first time you take it, you do not get 100%, just take it again. You can maybe study a little more on the plagiarism tutorial, but take it again. You will be asking the same questions, although the answers may come in a different location. Rarely do I ever have a student needing to take the quiz more than 2 times. And only occasionally do students need to take it 2 times to get 100%. This quiz can be taken, I think, for a total of 7 times. I'm not seeing that thing. Oh, there it is. 7 attempts. Yeah, I got it right. Any question about that? So that's your first assignment, which is due Saturday. Take the avoiding plagiarism tutorial and then the plagiarism quiz. The plagiarism tutorial is a tutorial that was made by the Clark College Library. And I think the plagiarism quiz was made by them, although I've adjusted it. And then there's a class guide on APA citation style that'll help you with the tutorial and the plagiarism quiz. Then you scroll down, we have our first week 1 lecture. I've got a link giving you the overview and the objectives to chapter 1, as well as the chapter 10 that we're covering with chapter 1. All of the quiz questions will come from the objectives. So if there's nothing else you should study in this class, you should study the objectives. Meaning generally I ask a question, try and answer it, and then look up the answer. As I stated, we are going to cover a little bit of chapter 10, pages 264 to 272 in the 3rd custom edition of the textbook with chapter 1, and I've got these chapter 10 objectives here. After that, there is the chapter 1 and chapter 10 introduction. These are the same notes we're going to talk about in the class, but they're in text format rather than in a, oops, that's the wrong link. The study guide's what I meant. Rather than the PowerPoint, but this is the same information that we'll cover, just in a different format. So if you want to take notes, you can print this out and then add to it. Generally, the organization is similar, although it may not be entirely the same. In some of the study guides, meaning in the first 1 or 2 chapters, I've got the overview and objectives broken off. On the others, I have the overview and objectives inside the chapter 1 study guide. And my goal is to eventually break them all off for all of them, but I've never gotten around to doing that. But that is my goal eventually. So let's go to chapter 2. This is looking differently. So this one I have it broken off. So let's go to week 3. And normally that's supposed to display. I don't know why it's not displaying that way, but so in this one I have the study guide, and the objectives and overview is at the top of the study guide. And most of them are that way, but the early ones I actually have done where I broke it off. Any question about any of that?
Quick question. When you do your normal lectures, will you be using a PowerPoint while lecturing?
Yes,
Will you upload that PowerPoint to Canvas?
I will, but not until I've finished the lecture.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Because I do want you guys to take your own notes. I don't just want you to print out my notes. The reason for that is students learn best, and anyone learns best, from their own notes. And so if I force you to make your own notes, you will learn the material better. And that's actually making more work for me. And if I have finished the lesson and you do not see the PowerPoint, which is actually not a PowerPoint, it'll be a PDF file of the lesson, then send me an email to remind me to get the lesson up on Canvas. Okay? All right, anything else I need to talk about? I don't think so from the class, so let's go to the syllabus. This is my syllabus, giving the class information for us. It's Tuesday, Thursday class, which I normally teach on Tuesday, Thursday. That's why you guys are first. My contact information, I do prefer you to use the Canvas email. And the reason is that I'm teaching 4 days a week, and I'll be checking the Canvas email about 5 or 6 days during the week. So you'll get a much quicker response if you use the Canvas email. You may email me at my clark.edu email. However, if you do, I get a lot of junk mail in this email site. And so I'm only going to check it about twice a week. So if you want a quick response, don't email me at clark.edu. Email me in the Canvas email website, which you get with the course. I do have an office, but I'm not going to be on campus this quarter. If you want to get together with me for office hours, we can make an arrangement online or by email, or we can do it after the lab. We can just wait until all the students have logged out of the lab and then begin the discussion. Or if you do not mind other students hearing what we're going to talk about, we can even meet in the lab after I have done talking about the lab. Here's your textbook materials. You should know that we have a required textbook for the lecture, not for the lab. An introduction for tutorial, Funk and Case. In the library, we have the 3rd custom edition, which is an edition made specifically for Clark College, having only the chapters that we're going to cover. And I think one more, because I don't cover one chapter that somebody else does. Earlier editions are okay. However, you will have to figure out which page number to read. And generally, I give you the page numbers, but you'll have to figure out what it'll be for that earlier edition. And I don't know if the library has the full edition of the textbook. I think I suggest you take the 12th edition because that'll be the same as our earlier edition. However, the 13th edition is the more recent edition of Tutora's textbook, which would be okay, but once again, you have to figure out the pages to read. Generally, I just assign a chapter, but occasionally, like on chapter 10, I'm giving you pages to read. But an older edition can be cheaper, and you can buy it online, and it is good to use. You may also rent the ebook or rent the, I guess if you rent a book, it's probably only an ebook. There are some optional texts. They're actually quite good. The photographic atlas for microbiology. This shows you the pictures of the lab results for all the lab tests we would ever do. You can go online and get the same pictures. I do have many, but not all of the pictures online. And then there's the microbiology coloring book. It does help you learn about microbiology, and the book Get Ready for Microbiology. I believe the optional textbooks are at the bookstore. You should know about Canvas and the other resources. The library course reserve has copies of the textbook, I think 3 of them, as well as the photographic atlas and the Get Ready for Microbiology, the optional textbook. You should know about the College Canvas website. It is your responsibility to visit the website to access all the necessary materials, especially if you miss a lesson. It's up to you to figure out what material you missed, and hopefully you will view the lesson. By the way, I can see how many people are logged into the Zoom session. I don't know if I can, oh, actually I can show you. There's 34 people logged in, and I can also view how many people have viewed the recording online and then for how long they viewed it, meaning if they viewed the entire lesson. So I can get that information. So I can add this up with the number of students viewing the online lesson, and I never get 100% of the class participating. So I do know that information if I want to look at it. All right, about the course description, I'll let you guys read about that. The same with the student outcomes. Course policies and suggestions. If you're sick, contact me and I'll help you keep track in the class. Please contact me prior to the due date, and I will make arrangements for turning in the assignment late if you need to. If you contact me after the due date, you may not get an exception to the due date. You can always turn in an assignment late. However, there is a late penalty for turning in an assignment late. To turn in an assignment late, all you need to do is email it to me. If it's emailed to me 1 day late, there will be a 25% penalty. If you email it after that, then the penalty will be 50%. So you do want to turn in your assignments by the due date. And I don't make exceptions unless you have a valid reason, like you say you're sick. Oh, and students always, don't ask me why, contact me after the due date of the quiz. If you know you're going to miss a quiz, or you know you're sick on that day and you want to take the quiz later, please contact me before the due date of the quiz. If you contact me afterwards, I will allow you, if you have a valid reason, to take the quiz late. I have to go in and change the permissions for you to take the quiz. However, the quiz, all the online quizzes will show answers either 2 or 3 days after the due date of the quiz. And after the answers show, I will not allow any student to take the quiz. Any question about that? All right, for preparing for class, you should consult the course what's it called? The outline, the schedule, and look at the material beforehand. Preferably read it beforehand, but you do need to read it before the quiz or the exam. You should also look at the lab material and know what it's talking about before we cover it in the lab, although that's not critical, especially on an online lab. And then obviously you should review that material before the quizzes. Cell phone, I'm not going to talk about. Attendance and participation is not a part of your grade in an online class. I will not take attendance except for the first lab. The first lab does have to be turned in by 8 a.m. on Friday. Otherwise, you'll be dropped from the class. After that, I will not take participation. Attendance is important, and I have noticed a strong correlation between attendance, attitude, and a student's final grade. Meaning if a student has a good attitude, they're attending the class, they tend to get a good grade. If a student has a poor attitude, has low attendance in the class, their grade oftentimes is not very good. Another reason for attending is I will explain complex subject matter that may not be clear. If you skip the class and only read about it, I guess you could always view it, but if you have a question, you'll have to email me the question if you're viewing it online. Online quizzes do have a due date. If the quiz is missed, you may or may not be able to make it up. After 2 or 3 days, no online quiz can be taken because the answers will show. Oh, the quizzes must be taken within 24-hour period. This is part of the policy of microbiology at Clark College to reduce cheating. I'll let you read about masks. Student responsibilities. Pre-read the lab modules, assignments, and bring them to class on the appropriate dates. Know the due dates of assignments. They are listed in the syllabus and in Canvas. They're always listed on Canvas. The catalog, although it's screwed up, at least for the Monday, Wednesday class, does have the correct due dates because the Tuesday, Thursday, and Monday, Wednesday classes have the same due dates for the same assignment. And that's generally Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Obtain all materials. If you miss a class, it's your duty to find out what you've missed and then learn the material. Keep all papers and final grade. Actually, we don't have papers here, but the online notes, which I guess it's really me it's keeping on the Canvas website, but keep it. And then if there's a question, we can go both look at it. You must abide by the student code of conduct, especially as applies to academic issues like cheating and plagiarism. Cheating and plagiarism is not allowed in college. If I catch you either cheating or plagiarizing, you'll get a 0 for that part of the assignment. If not, a 0 for that entire assignment. Lab safety rules must be followed. We're not going to go into a real lab, so that's not quite as important in an online lab. All interactions, including student to student, student to instructor, and instructor to student, should be cordial, businesslike, and professional. That includes emails. Everything should be phrased in a positive, non-confrontational, non-offensive language. We all must be respectful to each other, even if we strongly disagree. Instructor responsibilities. I will try to respond to all Canvas emails within 48 hours, Clark EDU emails within about a half a week. I'll try to have all assignments graded within a week of the due date. This is excluding the big 2 assignments in this class. And the reason for why those are excluded is because it'll take me at least a week to grade these assignments. Meaning it takes me a long time to grade each student's submission of one of these big assignments. And those 2 assignments are the infectious disease project and the unknown lab report. Now, when I'm saying that the assignments will be graded within a week, that refers to the first grading of an assignment in the lab. All labs will be graded 2 times. And if you do not get 100% on the first grading, you may resubmit the lab for a second grading. And it will be out of 100 points for the second grading. And I'll tell you in the first lab what questions you got wrong. Any question about that? All right, but the point is the second grading of the lab, I'm going to be grading them whenever I have time. It may not be within a week, and it may be very late. But you will have a grade from the first grading. Even if it might be lower than it would be for the second grading, you will at least have a grade. Any question about any of that? Okay, course withdrawal. Hopefully none of you will need to withdraw, but obviously life situation can force that. If you must withdraw from the course, it is best to drop the course within the first week. So if you're thinking about, gosh, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to take this course this term, make your decision whether to commit for the course within the first week. Because if you drop within the first week, and I don't remember if that's on Friday or Saturday, I used to have a link there for that. Apparently they changed the website and I took the link out, but you can find the link for someplace on my syllabus for looking that up. And make your decision in the first week, and then if you must, drop the course. That way you will not pay for the course. Anytime after that time, either Friday or Saturday of the first week, if you withdraw from the course, you will have to pay for the course, and on your transcript, you'll get a W for that course, this course. If you drop, you won't have it on the transcript either. Students must initiate course withdrawals. Instructors cannot. The exception is if a student does not attend and does not submit lab 00, the first lab, I will drop the student from the course. Any question about that? All right, I think I've talked about late assignments. If you're turning in an assignment late, you can't turn it into Canvas, but you can email it to me. Late assignments will be 25% penalty for the first day it's late, and then 50% penalty for every other day after that. I will accept a late assignment up until finals week. During finals week, I do not accept late assignments. Student conduct, it's your rights to have acceptable behavior. You can look on that at this website. The only thing I've ever had trouble with would be students either cheating or engaging in plagiarism, which is cheating, in which case you will lose points. Now, if you do plagiarize, what you should do instead of plagiarize is put it in quotes, what you're copying from somebody else, and then say where you got that quote from. And that is not plagiarizing. And you'll learn about that in the tutorial, the plagiarism tutorial. All right, I'll let you read about etiquette for Zoom. Important college-wide student information. Let me mention that this is the wintertime. Our college may close occasionally. We are an online class, so we will not close, even though the college is. But the only exception, and that is if we lose power, either I lose power or Vancouver loses power or Zoom goes down. That's never happened. I think that's the only thing I can think of. but otherwise we will be meeting. I'll let you read about translation services, suggested study methods. Like most science classes, microbiology can be challenging because it's going to introduce a large number of new vocabulary, many new concepts, and you may have several assignments due at the same time. You may feel stressed, especially in the middle of the term. This is normal, but many students do inform me that this is one of their most enjoyable classes. To alleviate some of this stress, please understand the commitment that you're about to undertake to take this course. To be successful, you need to set aside a sufficient amount of study time. Sufficient is an individual matter, but most students will require an average of 2 hours studying or working on the class for 1 hour of in-class time. This class normally meets for 3 hours of lecture and 4 hours of lab each week. So total hours in class time. So therefore expect for most students to be spending about 14 hours of time on this class outside of the class hours. You put it together, that's a total of 21 hours per week on this class. If you do not have the time to spend on this class, then it may be wise to take this class in another term when you have the time to spend learning the material of this class. Any question about any of that? All right. So Clark College requires graduates to comprehend fundamental principles. Comprehension requires the ability to understand information translated into new concepts, interpret facts, and predict consequences based on that information. To pass this course and pass the quiz questions, some of them will be comprehension questions. Students do learn differently, and you should ever use whatever works best for you. One way to improve your studying may be to determine what kind of learner you are. Like, are you a visual learner, an auditory learner, a reading, writing learner, etc. And you can learn about that by going to the VARC website. What type of a learner are you? Here's a list of some suggestions that may help you study effectively. Use what works for you. Take on manageable chunks of material where you're studying one section of a chapter at a time. Unless you're brilliant, trying to learn too much at once can be counterproductive. Use concept or mind mapping, and there's a link there for concept mapping. Be organized. You're going to have several concurrent assignments, and you may feel lost without proper organization. Use 10 to 15 minutes before class begins to skim both the previous class notes and those for the upcoming class. This will help you remember where we left off and get your brain in the proper mindset ready for the class. Come to class. This sounds simple, but many instructors, including you, have noticed a strong correlation between attendance and grades. Obviously, quizzes will be over material covered in the lecture, and I guess I should put the lab as well. So some questions are concerning the lab. And then listen in class. That sounds stupid, but if you're spending all your time just writing, you're not really paying attention to what is said, and you will do better if you actually listen to what is discussed. You do need to take notes, but take sketchy notes in class and then go over them to fill in the details as soon as possible, but before 24 hours have elapsed. You need to fill in your notes before 24 hours because short-term memory will be lost after 24 hours. And then if you don't have the short-term memory, you won't be able to fill in your notes. This will allow you to actually listen and think instead of writing your notes. And this will probably even cut down on your study time. Any question about that? Let's talk a little bit more about your study time. How many times does an average person need to go over something before they actually learn it? And I'm talking about learning it close to 100%. Think about this. How many times does an Olympic athlete have to practice a routine before they learn it? Or whenever you're trying to play a song from memory, how many times do you have to play it before you learn it? Anyone have an idea? Any guess?
3 times?
Say again?
3?
Oh no, much more than that. If you never noticed, the Olympic athletes are always practicing, and there's a reason for that. If you're playing the piano, a piece the first time, if you play it only 3 times, you're not going to learn it. You won't be able to play it from memory. The studies have been done mostly on middle school students, but they found that middle school students have to repeat something 20 times before they learn it. And I'm talking about learning it up to 100%. Now, obviously, you're an adult, and I don't know why the studies always do middle school students, but and if you really want to learn this material, you can learn it quicker than reviewing it 20 times. But you still have to review it a large number of times before you will learn it up to 100%. The first time you listen to something, you'll only learn 10% of that material. If you're taking notes, you are both learning and then translating in your brain from one part of the brain to another part to write your notes. You'll actually learn the material 20%, which isn't very high, but it's 2 times better than simply listening. So to learn the material, you have to go over your notes and go over your notes and go over your notes. Any question about any of that? So you want to go over your notes throughout the term and then obviously before the quizzes and exams. All right, try active strategies for learning, form a study group, quizzing study partners, writing mock questions, and then trying to answer them. Use visual study techniques such as concept mapping, and I've got links to that. Any question about any of that? If not, let's talk about the grading. The plagiarism quiz will be 20 points. There will be 5 quizzes worth 70 points, 75 points each. However, you get to drop the lowest quiz, so the quizzes will be only 300 points total. There will be a worksheet generally for each lab worth a total of 50 points. There will be a lecture worksheet, at least one for each lesson, for a total of 25 points. There will be an unknown bacterial lab report for 75 points. There will be an infectious disease research project, which is also a lab project for 100 points. And then there will be a cumulative final exam for 150 points. So 20 points for a plagiarism quiz, 300 points for your quizzes, with the one lowest quiz being dropped. 50 points for your lab assignments, generally 5 points each. 75 points for the unknown project. 100 points for your infectious disease project. 25 points for the lecture worksheets. And then 150 points for your final, for a grand total of 720 points in the class. In addition, there will be some extra credit points, about 20 points of extra credit. Your grade will be based on your points accumulated out of 720 points. If you have 92% or higher, then you'll get an A. If you get 90% or higher, you'll get an A minus. If you get 88% or higher, a B plus. 82% or higher, a B. 80% or higher, a B minus. 78% or higher, a C plus. 70% or higher, a C. We don't give a C minus in microbiology. 60% or higher, a D. And then less than 60%, you'll get an F. Any question about any of that? You should note that Canvas does have a grading scale, and it does give you a grade. However, the Canvas grading scale is different than this, slightly different, and your grade will be based on this scale here. I'll let you read about question review and written corrections. Microscope use, I'll talk about in the lab. Support services for students, I'll let you read about that. Canal Library, I'll let you read about that too. Let me state that there is something I do want to talk about. I missed it. And that is, there is a tutor for microbiology this term at Clark. You can find that tutor in the tutoring center. I think it's in, however you say that, Bear Hall in room 102. You can also tutor online through the Clark College, and then you can also tutor at etutoringonline.org. Services for students. There's a link for the enrollment deadlines and the dates. So if you wanted to find out when you need to drop the course, you can just click on that link there and scroll through the information. I'll let you read about one-stop assistance, and then reasonable accommodations for religion or conscience, Zoom, camera for Zoom, important college-wide student information, and translational services. I'll let you read about non-discrimination policy at Clark, school emergency procedures. I'm not going to cover that because even if the college closes, we're an online class, so we will continue to have class. Student information, safety information for students and physicians. We'll talk about that in the lab. Some words of advice and comfort. Sometimes it seems like your instructors are your enemies. It is true that we must maintain standards, so we can't always accommodate you. However, you should know that we all want you to succeed. And then the greatest joy in teaching is interacting with our students and getting to know you and helping you achieve your academic goals. So if you have problems, complaints, or concerns, come and discuss it with me. If you don't want to do it face-to-face, we can do it over email. Don't let these issues fester. Festering only makes them worse. I realize that you may be under stress, and I'll try my best to accommodate you. Let me state that There once was a study looking at the instructor that had the greatest success rate with their students. And you want to know who was the student who had the instructor who had the greatest success rate with their students? I actually was the one who did it. Part of the reason why I have a better success rate than other instructors is I really do try to accommodate you and work with you on issues. So work with me. If something happens, you're unhappy about something, you need to make an accommodation to the schedule, contact me and try and work with me. And I'll do my best to accommodate you. I can't always accommodate you. Like, for example, if you try to take the quiz or you're asked to take the quiz after the answers are showing, I'm going to say no, because you can look up the answers. All right. Lab safety rules we'll talk about in the lab. And then at the end of the syllabus, we have the tentative course schedule. I have the week on column 1, the lecture topics on column 2, and then the laboratory topics on column 3. For major assignments, I've got the due date on this schedule, like the due date for the infectious disease paper. However, you should realize that most of the lab assignments and the lecture assignments, their due date is always Saturday at 11:59 p.m. of the week of the lesson. And that due date is not shown on the schedule. But you can just always count on it being 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. Any question about any of that? All right, let's move on to chapter 1. We don't have much time in the class left. Microbiology, chapter 1, the microbial world and you. And then chapter 10, the classification of microorganisms. And chapter 10, for the third custom edition of the textbook, we're only going to cover pages 272 to 281. I usually give you a first slide giving you the major goals and a rough outline for this lesson. So always know the terms of the lesson. We'll talk about these terms in the lesson. And then we're going to talk about the brief history of microbiology, and we'll talk about the importance of microbes in this lesson. I'm actually going to start with the importance of microbes. Here we're seeing the nitrogen cycle on the planet Earth. Is that the right one? And you can start it in the nitrogen in the atmosphere. That nitrogen can be pulled out of the atmosphere by bacteria and archaea and fixed into an organic compound. When that organism dies, the organic compound can be decomposed by bacteria, archaea, and fungi, generally into ammonia and ammonium ions, although a little bit of the organic compounds might be able to be taken up by plants and algae. And actually, I'm surprised it isn't also microbes in there. And then some of the organic compounds can be decomposed into nitrate, but the vast majority will be decomposed into ammonia. The ammonia can be used by plants and algae. However, they don't like it. And if you give them too much ammonia, it'll actually kill the plant. The ammonia and ammonium can be converted into nitrite by bacteria and archaea. The nitrite can be, which is NO2 with a negative charge, can be converted into nitrate by bacteria. The nitrate is a form of nitrogen that green plants and algae love. So most of the time, this is the form of nitrogen they get and then use. And then when the green plant or algae decomposes, it will decompose an organic compound, which will be decomposed further by bacteria and archaea and fungi into mostly ammonia and ammonium. Nitrite and then nitrate. And let's go again with nitrate. Nitrate can be changed into nitrogen and then released into the air by bacteria and archaea. So this is the nitrogen cycle. The reason why we're discussing it is here, wherever I've got the red arrow, this step of the nitrogen cycle oh, that worked. All right. I'm not sure what happened to Zoom. Does anyone know what happened to Zoom? I thought I was giving the lesson and I'm not sure what happened because Zoom just popped up and like it died for a second or maybe longer, I don't know, and then muted myself. So I'm not sure what happened. Does anyone know what happened? Anyone can tell me what happened on your end? All right, I'm not getting any response, so we're going to continue.
I'm not sure, but it only lasted like a second. It wasn't very long.
All right, maybe it was just an internet interaction then, internet problem with Zoom. Anyways, hopefully it looks like I'm playing the same Zoom thing and it didn't stop recording, but maybe there was no sound there for a while for some reason.
And Professor, it
All right.
also stopped sharing your screen. I don't know if you
Oh, am I not sharing my screen?
Yeah, that went away too.
Let me try and go back to this. Let's end the show. Hopefully I didn't end Zoom. I've never had this happen. I've had Zoom collapse on me, but not where it changed its settings. Okay, so it muted me and then stopped sharing the screen. That's really odd. All right, so the point of the nitrogen cycle is that most of the steps of the nitrogen cycle, wherever there's a red arrow, that step is happening because a microbe is causing that step to happen. And without microbes, nitrogen would not be recycled in the ecosystem. What would happen is nitrogen would accumulate at one point and then would not move. Probably where point where it would happen is that when something dies, it wouldn't decompose, and then the nitrogen would just be in the dead material on the ground, like in the forest floor. If it doesn't ever decompose, you just get a buildup on the forest floor. But because of microbes, nitrogen can move from one part of the ecosystem to another, explaining the importance of microbes in the functioning on the planet Earth, as well as in the functioning of the nitrogen cycle. Microbes are also important in the making of soil. Some microbes can actually eat rocks and then obtain nutrients from the rocks, break them down, and then form soils. Now, please understand that soil is not mainly made this way. Soil is mostly made by the erosion occurring by wind and water, but a significant portion of the soil, around 20%, is made by microorganisms. Another importance of microbes in the planet Earth is in the production of oxygen. Today, we have oxygen at around 21%, but if you go back in time, that oxygen level generally decreases until you get to 2.7 billion years ago, where the Earth had no oxygen. Why we got oxygen in the atmosphere is because microbes that were photosynthetic started making oxygen as a byproduct, and they released it, and that oxygen went into the atmosphere, building up in the atmosphere to 1 to 5.1 to 5% over time. That 5% oxygen was enough oxygen in the atmosphere for ozone to be made. Ozone is an oxygen derivative, construct, whatever you want to call it. With ozone around, that stopped UV light from hitting the land, which then allowed for green plants to evolve. So that couldn't have happened unless there was already oxygen in the atmosphere. And then green plants came around and they increased the oxygen concentration, bringing it up to about 21%. However, that 21%, only half of that oxygen is coming from green plants and algae. The other half the 21% is coming from microorganisms, which are photosynthetic. So that's explaining that microbes are important in the level of oxygen in the Earth's atmosphere, as well as in bringing oxygen to the Earth's atmosphere. Microbes are also important in decomposing things. There's a sewage treatment plant, which the sewage is obviously made by humans when we flush stuff down our toilets or our sinks. It's then accumulated and brought into the sewage treatment plant, and it looks like humans are breaking down the waste. However, that's not correct. Humans do not break down the waste at all. What happens is they build this structure and then put the waste and the wastewater in here and then allow the microbes to grow and consume the waste, converting most of it into CO2 and water. So it's actually microbes which are important in the recycling of, like a sewage treatment plant, as well as in the recycling of nutrients when things die, like on the forest floor. Any question about any of that? That's funny. I thought it was there. Oh, let me talk about one more slide here, and then I'll stop at the same place I did for the Monday, Wednesday class. Microorganisms, I talked about it, and I've used the term synonymously with microbes. These are organisms which are too small to be seen with the unaided eye. You need a microscope to see them. They are single-celled. They have many shapes and sizes. They include bacteria, archaea, yeast, molds, protozoans, some algae that are microscopic, viruses and prions. These last two are special because they are not organisms. They do not have cells. And to tell you the truth, I do not call a virus or a prion a microorganism. I would call them a microbe, but they are not an organism because they do not have a cell. So I don't call them a microorganism, although other authors, like I think your textbook author, does call them a microorganism. And I wouldn't, just because I don't consider them an organism. They are special, they are a microbe, but they do not have cells. Microbes are almost everywhere, so we can say that there is a ubiquity of microorganism where we find them almost everywhere on the planet. They play beneficial roles in numerous processes on the planet Earth, and they are numerically the most abundant life form on the planet Earth. Any question about anything? All right. If not, I'll see you in the lab at 7 o'clock. If you're in the 7 o'clock lab. Any questions? If not, I'm going to log out and I will see some of you at 7.
I have one question. So I got kind of confused. I think I am in the 3 o'clock class, but I saw so many different times for the labs. Is it okay if I go to either one depending on what time I'm available? Or is it
You
recommended
you can attend any of the Tuesday, Thursday labs. You cannot attend the Monday, Wednesday lab because of FERPA regulations, FERPA laws in the United States.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. If there's no further questions, I'm going to log out.
Thank
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.